Oh, welcome. We're just going to start that way. My God. Welcome to another Monday Night Therapy. Um, it's John and Todd again on Monday night. And wow, we're really souped up. And well, Linda is here. And Linda Wilkins greets us with good evening, John and Todd, needing some therapy tonight. I need some speech therapy, obviously. How you doing, Todd?
Oh, I'm just kind of tired, but I'm here. We're gonna charge through all of this tonight. So
We're going to
yeah,
charge through it.
charge through it. I'm tired though. I tell you
Are
what.
you?
Yeah, yeah. I have no
Well,
idea why, but I certainly am.
because you're old and crusty.
That's probably it. That's probably it. So
I am like usual, biting off more than I can chew. Uh, should we just go right into stuff?
yeah, we could do that. I was gonna forward you a picture. I'm gonna do that right now while you're kind of chatting.
Okay, I'm going to be chatting. I'm going to start with one thing I know nobody else gives a single shit about. And that did anybody in the comments, there's 21 people here. Did anybody watch the national title game in hockey, Minnesota versus Quinnipiac? I doubt it. It was an incredible game. Listen, I live in Minnesota. I've lived here since 1989, and I have watched Minnesota sports go through some of the most horrific things ever. A lot of them I've laughed about. Like, I am not a Vikings guy. I am a Green Bay guy. And if you ever wondered the joy of being a Green Bay Packers fan, move to Minnesota. But Minnesota has had so many things happen to them bad. And everybody's like, nope, 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 don't care. It was good sportsing. It was incredible sportsing. But the game went into overtime. Minnesota lost 10 seconds into overtime on an incredible execution of a play by Quinnipiac. They were winning the faceoffs all night. They won the faceoff, a pass to the defenseman, a pass to a forward, second pass who beat the defenseman for Minnesota, beats the goalie. The game's over 10 seconds into overtime. It was horrifying for Minnesota. And I mean, it was absolute joy for Quinnipiac because they won their first national title. So that's all I'm going to say. Nobody cares about hockey. We got
Well,
Rob Johnson.
I'll throw something out here.
What?
It's what I think is really kind of interesting, and I watch a smidge of college hockey, pay just a little bit of attention, but is it my understanding that the Big Ten, has hockey in the conference? I mean, they sanction hockey,
Right.
so there's the Big Ten conference for hockey, and
Right.
you've got a bunch of traditional powers. I mean, Minnesota's been good for years. Michigan's had good teams for years. Wisconsin has had good teams for years. But the Big Ten has not won the NCAA championship in hockey. Now,
Right.
that's distorted a smidge because I think what they officially started sanctioning it like in 2014 or something like that.
Yes. Yes.
And it used to be that those teams were, Big Ten teams were in other conferences. And so there are, banners hanging, in the rink in Minnesota as well as in Wisconsin and places like that. But
Dion Pryor says that's okay. No, it is not okay. And it is not on our list. But I think one thing you guys are all missing, I realize you don't care about hockey. Todd, name the last time the Big Ten Conference won a national title in any sport.
2 months ago or a month ago, Penn State won wrestling.
Besides that, because we
Ohio
know that
State, Ohio State. Well, wait just
we
a
know
minute.
that we're the conference of wrestling.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
conference of volleyball, and well, Dion mentions bowling, but the Big Ten doesn't
No.
sanction bowling. Um, there is an argument there that people are starting to make that it's not about winning, it's about dollars, and it's about making big money. That
Was it was the
Pac-12
last time
identifies himself. The Pac-12 calls himself the Conference of Champions.
they are trademarked as the Conference of
The
Champions?
Conference of Champions.
The Conference of Champions, Pac-12. That's because they have 842 titles and things that nobody else plays, like men's water polo.
Well, sure, sure.
But when was the last time the Big Ten won a basketball championship?
That goes way back to Michigan State quite a few years ago, right? I think
Football,
it was.
college. Yeah, it was like
Well, Ohio
2003,
State won a
2000.
national title in football within the last 5 years.
Okay. Baseball, God knows, 1956.
Probably back then. Yeah.
Women's basketball.
Probably Maryland at one point, but that was probably before they were in the Big Ten.
Do you think that this is a? I know we didn't plan on this. We switched to our regular plan and saved this. We're going to do this impromptu. Basketball bothers me. I know that most people don't care about basketball. Football, I think, is just that the SEC is a damn good conference in football, and they have they do. I mean, I'd love to say shit about the SEC, but they do have the best players and they do have the best teams at the SEC. But I mean, Alabama's been there, Georgia been there. What's the deal with the Big Ten in football? Why can't we compete? Why can't we beat up somebody?
Well, it's a different style of game, and plus, I mean, there's advantages to the region where the SEC is based. I mean, in the South, they've got so many more high quality players, per capita or however the density of players is just much more significant. And in the northern part of the country, it's not the same. Yeah, there's a lot more talent in the South than there is up here, and so across the board, they're going to have more depth. They're going to have more high quality players. So
I think that would be something that would be that shouldn't be the case for basketball, though. I mean, it's 20
not
some
with
years or
basketball, and
something.
I'm not a basketball guy either, and maybe that's something we should have one of our basketball writers join us to talk more intelligently than the two of us can. But people are whining about the Big Ten not playing well in the NCAA tournament, and they blame the fact that they play the championship game on Sunday. I mean, I've heard that, and then it's, well, the Big Ten, they're just so physical all season. They just beat the tar out of each other, and players are beat up and worn out, and all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of excuse making that I hear for basketball, but you're right. There shouldn't be. I mean, geography should not be an excuse. If you look at the fact that there's a lot of high quality players that come out of the New York and Philadelphia areas and Chicago and the Big Ten. That's within, their footprint, so to speak. Yeah, I don't know.
You know what we need, Todd?
What do we need?
We need a segue back to our list of topics. And this segue is right here from Linda Wilkins. She says, Todd, weight loss will boost your energy levels, which is her way of asking, Todd, how does that 50 pounds thing going?
I saw a note earlier that she wrote about, I think, Athletic Greens. I do good with my fruits and vegetables. Actually, I am. I'm on my way. It hasn't made the dent that I want it to yet, but we're working at it. Picking up my exercise a bit, and also my food consumption has dropped and alcohol consumption's dropped. So we're working on it, slow but sure. Slow and steady wins the race, I guess. So,
Was the Nebraska baseball team slow and steady this weekend?
boy, the Nebraska baseball team played really well, except for, um, yeah, I mean, Saturday's game, Jace Kaminska really struggled.
Right.
They gave up. They were down 6-2 before you could blink, and ended up getting beat 8-6, I think. Just couldn't come back. But baseball wise, the team is playing well overall right now. They're tied for fourth in the Big Ten. I think you had
Wait. I have a graphic for
you
that.
got a little graphic that you can put up there. No, excuse me, I said tied for fourth. They're tied for second when you look at percentage. They've only played a couple series in the conference. It's really too early to sort things out. What I will say is, in terms of the conference, Nebraska has a fairly easy road going forward. They do play Maryland, who is top notch. Maryland's been one of the best programs in recent years. But they do not have Indiana on the schedule. They do not have Rutgers on the schedule. They do not have. I guess they do play Iowa, so there's another decent team. But looking at those standings right now, it's early. There's gonna be a lot of change, a lot of shifting in the standings. What I will say is, when you look statistically, and again, it's too early to get really excited about things, but Nebraska is leading the conference in hitting. They're leading the conference in fielding, and they're number 3 in the conference in pitching. So, statistically, that backs up the fact that that Nebraska is playing quite well right now.
Where are they in hit by pitch?
They got to be up there on both ends. Pitchers hitting back. Our pitchers do a really good job of hitting other batters. In fact, might be leading the country in that. And our guys.
You know what? I don't think we're actually as bad as you think we are. You could look up the Big Ten stats, and I will pull up another thing. And where am I? Hopefully that's the right graphic. Nebraska ended up with Player of the Week from the Big Ten Conference. Nebraska ended up with Player of the Week Max Anderson, Pitcher of the Week Emmett Olson, the Friday starter, and then for some reason they had to put some other team in there with Michigan State with some guy Freshman of the Week. But I mean, you can't win everything. I guess.
What's surprising is that's the first time Max Anderson's ever been the Player of the Week. He's had a good career. He was Freshman of the Week once or twice, back in his inaugural season. But, Max Anderson's swinging the bat really well right now. He's playing well. Bryce Matthews is playing really well. Emmett Olson looks just tougher than nails. And the bullpen is playing really well right now. How good's Michigan? Michigan's good. They're not the same quality Michigan team from the last 3 or 4 years. Their head coach left and took the entire staff with him down to Clemson. Also, a couple of players followed him down to Clemson. However, they hired Tracy Smith as the head coach. And, a few years back when Indiana was looking really good, that's because they had Tracy Smith as the head coach. And then he was hired away and went down to Arizona State and spent about 5, 6, 7 years down there. Well, he's back in the Big Ten. And he's a good quality coach, and Michigan's a good team this year. They should finish in the top 4 or 5 in the conference.
Wait, we have more baseball. We have one more baseball graphic I want to put up. Here it is. Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald, for those on the podcast, tweeted that Nebraska baseball is entering the take care of business quarter of its regular season. The RPI of the next Huskers opponents for the next 14 games. And basically it was a list of the RPIs, and they're pretty bad. They're 240, 267, 129, 57, 240, 290. I mean, you're literally playing most of those teams are at the bottom of the barrel. what are there, about 331,
Yeah,
330, 320 Division
somewhere
One
like that.
teams?
Yep.
So
Well,
240 is what? University of Omaha?
that's Omaha. Yep.
Okay.
And then
And then
Northwestern.
267 is we
That's
should beat the snot
Northwestern.
out of Northwestern.
Yep.
129 is,
Creighton.
and then 57 is,
That's Iowa.
okay, 240, 290,
That's back to
midweek
Omaha
games.
again. Yeah.
And then 241, 3 games. That is, that's Minnesota?
That's Minnesota. Yep.
My God.
But,
So,
that's a frustration because, in baseball in particular, you've got to play decent RP. You've got to have a decent RPI to have a shot to get in the regionals. Now, there's some other factors and indicators, but, Big Ten isn't, they're not looking real good right now in terms of the quality of competition that they've had success against. And that's unfortunate.
well, I think the problem is, I mean, our RPI isn't going to go up playing Northwestern.
No.
And our RPI isn't going to go up playing Minnesota. Minnesota, for whatever reason, has become not a very good program recently. It's not my place to ask. Well, it is my place to ask when John Anderson is going to retire, but nobody at Minnesota is going to ask that because I think he's been their coach for like 40 years.
It's been a long,
Seriously?
long time, but I think that
Yeah.
that's the issue right there is that, Minnesota's decided that he's earned the right to decide when he's going to leave. He's not interested in leaving right now, and yet that's the case. Has he become a worse baseball coach? No.
Right.
He is the same coach that has won hundreds of games. What's hurting them right now is that he's a much older gentleman and there is a disconnect between him and his players. And apparently he doesn't have assistants on his staff that can build those kinds of relationships that attracts, the high quality players that they need to be successful. Just had a conversation with my nephew who's coaching down at Hutchinson Community College. And, they kind of bumped into a similar situation with an assistant that they brought on that's over 70 years old and just doesn't understand, working with the 20-something-year-old athletes today. It's tough. So
You mean you're saying you and I probably wouldn't relate well when we want to go to bed at 8? We should have been in bed 20 minutes ago.
well, there's a lot of other things that go into it.
What's a meme? Is that what
What's
the
a
problem
meme?
is? Yeah. You don't understand what a meme. You know what a meme is.
I know
Todd.
what a meme is.
Okay. Does that 70-year-old guy know what a meme is?
Perhaps not, but I
John
think
Anderson, do you think he knows?
he probably hasn't paid attention, would be my guess.
Okay, we're going to go through some comments, and I just clicked on the wrong one, but we'll go ahead. And Linda Wilkins asks, is Rutgers still playing? I see the staff went on strike. I think that Rutgers University right now is undergoing some kind of strike.
Okay. Oh, where like their professors walked out or something like that?
Something like that. We could look it up.
Well,
Rutgers played this weekend.
Yeah, as far as I know, they're still out there. There's a lot of dynamics. The one that you feel bad for in the Big Ten in baseball is Northwestern. I mean, they were starting to move their program up and everybody left. I mean, all of their players left from last year. So
Ralph Davis asks, no wrestling programs in the South. Why?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I can answer it.
Go ahead.
How many high school programs in the South have wrestling?
There's part of the issue right there. I mean, wrestling has come on in the South a bit.
Because in the South, you're going to play football. You're not going to play. You're not going to be in a sport. It's football, no sport. That's it. They're not going to offer a wide variety of things.
Football,
their football programs.
Wrestling in the South took a step back 25 years ago, 30 years ago, when, and then when Title IX came into play, that gave a lot of schools an excuse to drop it. But yeah, I mean, there's some tough wrestling down in the South, in Florida and Georgia. North Carolina's got some good wrestling. Um,
Joel
they're coming
Tilson
up.
says it's too damn hot,
Yeah,
and
well,
you know what? It's too damn hot. What that leads to, Todd, is sweaty Bosch,
yeah, okay.
and nobody wants that.
I
Nobody
am not
wants
going
that.
down that road.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see here. We'll go back to a baseball question from MK. Will USC and UCLA make the Big Ten care more about baseball once they join? What do you think, Todd?
Boy, I tell you what, I'm not sure. You know, a lot of people thought that the Big Ten would care more about baseball when Nebraska joined, which they did to a limited extent
Yeah.
because, programs started beefing up their baseball budgets, new facilities, new stadiums, and that kind of stuff. So there was that kind of an impact.
You
Right
know what else they
now,
did? You know what else they did?
go
They
ahead.
fired some coaches and hired some new ones
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
coaches that have been around for a long time, just being baseball coaches, but not really doing anything.
Right. And I think right now the issue with the Big Ten Conference and baseball is what's shooting them in the foot is still you have to overcome the talent pool, and you got to figure out a way to keep the best kids from the north in the northern schools if you can. But we got a lot of coaches that are not willing to play high level competition in the early season.
Yeah,
There are
that is
some.
true.
I mean, it's not just Nebraska. I mean, there are some other schools. Michigan played a good, strong schedule, preseason. They played some tough teams. But, you got other schools in the Big Ten that just don't go out and challenge themselves against high level competition.
Like Penn State.
There you go.
Yeah, and Northwestern.
Yeah. Throw those guys across the river to the east out there as well.
Yeah, Iowa. When who was it? Heller came in. I mean, they looked like they were beefing up their schedule, and then they said, "To hell with it. We're going to play crap."
Yeah, they kind of have taken a step back from that.
And the problem with this is, just so everybody knows, is that if you're not paying if you're not playing quality competition, you're playing teams down there in the 240 and 270 and 290 RPI level. Your RPI can't go up. And then we play you and you suck our RPI into the basement with you because you're too lazy or unconcerned. You know, that whole thing about the Big Ten, teams and schools do this stuff about pursuit of excellence and we pursue excellence and everything. Bullshit. You don't in some of your things, and one of them is baseball. Penn State, Northwestern, Iowa, a bunch of bastards. This has bothered me every year for like 15 years since I've been doing this. Yeah. All right. Anyway, my answer to that question is, will USC and UCLA make the Big care more about baseball? Here's the problem. You're joining the Big Ten Conference. The Big Ten Conference has been around since 1905, 1907. I mean, it went by other names earlier, but it's the conference that's been around. And with that comes a lot of, well, honestly, arrogance. And it's kind of like, we're the Big Ten and we've been here. It's kind of like your new money moving into old money. And the old money doesn't give two shits about you and your opinions. And that's the problem that I don't think the USC and UCLA people know this yet, but they're probably, the Big Ten's going to go blah, blah, blah. We're going to hear you. We'll listen to your concerns and stuff. And then they're going to go, well, we're old money and you're new money. So why don't you just piss off?
Well, I guess a short-term impact that it will have is you're going to bring in two teams that play high-quality opponents.
That's a good point.
And so that will beef up the RPI for the conference. And UCLA has been in the College World Series a number of times in recent years. USC, not as much. USC's baseball program is not, the juggernaut that it once was. But it will help. It will benefit the conference. And we'll just have to see how the conference reacts to that. I hope they react in a positive way. So anyway, you know,
Linda Wilkins comes in. Did you want to continue something?
well, I was just going to move to a different topic, but go ahead. That's what you're doing here.
Linda Wilkins comes in and says, "John, you were doing the history stuff. Remember? Yeah, you're right. But right now, I am finishing off the 1905 stuff, moving to 1906. I haven't moved to anything outside of Yale and Harvard, Princeton, and Penn, because those were the top four schools in 1905 and in the early, or 1900s, 1890s. Those were the big names, and the Yale Harvard rivalry was the giantest thing in all of football, and they led everybody. And I'm hopefully I'm going to get another history video out. I have not yet moved into like Big Ten stuff or Nebraska stuff early, and we'll see what happens. One more thing on this, down this path, and then we'll move on to what Todd wants. Joel Tilson says, what is the impact of adding UCLA and USC to the Big Ten? More money and ratings for the Big Ten?
Yes. Yes. Yes and yes. And more television sets.
And then we have to be spread across time zones across the nation. Our athletes have to fly all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to bus to a Big Ten or a UCLA game, are they?
I doubt it. USC might, but
well, yeah.
I I don't know. I guess it's just hard for me to even have a intellectual thought about having those two teams come into the conference. I mean, it just, I don't know. It just doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense beyond the fact that it's going to bring more money to the conference.
You know what else it'll bring?
Some of the best looking cheerleaders in the world.
Well, that's true too. It will bring shit tons of championships. It will. UCLA, I mean, how many basketball championships? But I mean, Stanford's the one that always wins all the like men's water polo and yachting or some damn thing. I'm sure UCLA and USC have a lot of those championships. Okay. What do we got? What were you having coming up next, Todd?
There was a comment early on about as to whether or not we had our volleyball tickets. They had a bit today. I saw it on the news that people started camping out last night in Central City to buy tickets for the Nebraska spring volleyball game that they're hosting in a brand new gymnasium in Central City. For those of you that are not familiar with Nebraska geography, Central City's a small little town, kind of north of Grand Island-ish, out in that neck of the woods. Nice little community, but they are the ones that are going to host Nebraska volleyball, and people lining up, camping out, just like we did for Springsteen, camping out to get their tickets. So hey, that's Nebraska. That's Nebraska.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right. Where are we going next?
Well, hey, the bowling team, and we're going to talk football here in a minute. Bowling team qualified for the Nationals, and I didn't really know what that all meant, in terms of how, qualifying for national tournaments, work in the sport. But I did dig in a little bit, and there are 4 regionals, and the champion team from each regional qualifies for the Nationals. So the bowling team will be going for their 7th title. And the other 3 teams are McKendree, Arkansas State, and Vanderbilt. So hopefully the Nebraska women's bowling team has some more success.
It's time for your segue. I'm running out. What's next? I'm kind of like I'm petering out here.
We need to talk just a little bit about football, though there's not a hell of a lot to talk about.
Wait a minute. We had comments. We had, this is from a bit back. Joel Tilson said Rule is praising his offensive line.
Yep. Yep. It's
He did. He
well,
did say.
no, you go ahead.
He did say that he felt like Bryce Benhart was an NFL tackle.
Which, as soon as I read that, I thought, man, if John hasn't, had another heart attack, that's going to bring one on. Um, everybody's been pretty critical of Bryce Benhart. I think what goes with those articles though is when Matt Rule was talking about the offensive line, he's talking about a need for confidence. Right. He said the biggest thing that the offensive line lacks is self-confidence. And, obviously he said that's our responsibility, to instill that in them. And that's one of the reasons why they're going ones versus ones in practice this spring. He basically says, Bryce Benhart has to practice against the best outside rushers that Nebraska has, so that he's prepared and he, when the season comes around, but more importantly, to prove to himself that he can have some success against those kinds of players. And, I don't remember what the context was, but I remember, during the season last year, towards the end of the season, some people were, I know who it was. It was Charlie McBride. I was listening to Charlie McBride on Sports Talk. And Charlie McBride said, what the offensive line lacks is confidence. He said they have the physical tools. He says they have skill, but they have absolutely no confidence. So, maybe that's it. If you're going to stand out there and, fight a guy all day and you don't have some confidence that you're going to be able to beat him or that you're going to win battles, then, I can understand where mentally you wouldn't be very effective.
During the pandemic, I did a number. They're still on our channel somewhere. I did another number of interviews with Yoshi Jamarcus Hardrick, who was one of our offensive linemen and played in the CFL, became a CFL champion, the Canadian Football League, with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and he's actually recognized as one of the better tackles in the league. But he talked about what goes on mentally during a game, and if a guy's beating you, and how that can affect your confidence during a game and really shatter you. And I think that, I really honestly maybe I should get a hold of Yoshi and we could bring him in and talk more about that. I think people, by and large, really just poo-poo the whole mental aspect of all these sports. And I think it really begins there and ends there. I mean, you can cover it up with a lot of, I think I said this last Thursday, you can cover this up with a lot of athleticism, but if you don't have your brain in the right place, you're going nowhere. So it would be nice. I would love to see Bryce Benhart get to be an NFL tackle. I think that would be a wonderful turnaround story.
Mute. Okay. Yeah, I would too. I would love to see him have some success. And, there have been other guys over the years that have been kind of the proverbial whipping boy that, you love to see him kind of get things turned around and have some success. So, if Bryce Benhart, can make the kind of take the kind of leaps, that he needs to be a successful player and to maybe someday play on Sundays, that only bodes well for Nebraska. That only makes Nebraska better.
Fred Sacco says so many games the offensive line just looked defeated, poor body language, no pop, no enthusiasm, looked like they were headed to the gallows down after down.
Yeah,
that is true. Dion Pryor says he would pee in public if Benhart makes the NFL. Depending upon where you're doing that, that's probably against the law. You're just pointing that out. Maybe in some places it's okay. You might want to check with your local statutes ahead of time there.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your willingness to do that, but please don't do it on our behalf, okay?
Yeah. Oh, okay. What else about football? What else is going on?
Well, you, I guess what I, on a sad note, unfortunately, Nebraska likes to keep its arms wrapped around its own. Speaking of offensive lineman Cole Pensick, who
Oh, that's right.
played with Nebraska not that many years ago, I think the young man was only 32 years old. Tragically, was killed in an automobile accident this weekend. And I know that Jeremiah Searles wrote
Right.
a very heartfelt kind of like a eulogy or memory of Cole Pensick, which I guess Searles played with him, back in the day, and you know um, that just kind of drives home something that that makes you Nebraska unique is that and I've like I've said in the last 2.5 years, I have traveled this state extensively through all these little towns. And what clicks through my head every time I drive through a town is who was the last Cornhusker from this town? Or if you walk into a bar in this town, what Cornhusker is going to have their picture, on top, on the bar, in front of the bar? But I go into a lot of high schools all over the state, and someplace in their trophy cases they have pictures of the Nebraska Cornhusker players or the NFL players that have done well, and so there is that growing your own kind of a mentality um, among Nebraskans. That is really kind of special, kind of neat.
Uh, Dion Pryor, I assume that these Dion Pryor messages that say stuff like face green smiling are emojis on Twitter or on YouTube, and we just are seeing them. I don't know. I don't really understand emojis worth a damn. That was just kind of weird a side thing there. Let's see. Joel Tilson asks the question of spring: Dylan Raiola status. Do you know?
Well, I think he was probably hanging with some buds playing video games today, would be my guess, after school. Probably got in a little weightlifting today, I would think. Maybe through with a personal coach. That'd probably be my guess. Um, that's yeah, that's probably what he's been up to.
I think that I obviously hasn't committed to anybody yet. I mean, because he hasn't committed, he visited Nebraska and then he didn't commit right away. I think people are starting to, they're starting to have Fred's attitude here, who says, "I care as much about Dylan Raiola as I do Minnesota versus Quinnipiac at this point." I I assumed you cared a lot about Minnesota versus Quinnipiac. That's what I'm taking from that, Fred. But I think people are, they're getting a little tired seeing his name and hearing his name, but not, not getting the commitment out of him. And, now the backlash has started. Wherever the guy goes, good luck to him. I hope it's Nebraska. But again, I've said this, say it again. We have it. That is for the 2024 class. We still have a 2023 season to play. The fact that we're even still in this conversation is, I think, a testament to how hard Matt Rule and his staff are working on
Yeah,
doing recruiting and bringing guys in.
yeah,
The big rumor is that Nebraska's nil isn't up to snuff with some of the other schools' nil offerings, and quarterbacks are going to make. Did I see an article where some guy was going to make $8 million over 3 years? It was like
yeah.
a
You
lot of
might have,
money for a
yeah,
guy that a guy who hasn't played a snap in college. But that is the going price in the open market.
yeah.
Oh my
Well, I
gosh.
guess we'll just have to wait and see. I really hope he does come to Nebraska. If he's the best quarterback in the country, I hope he comes to Nebraska. I hope when the dust all clears, that's where he ends up.
Matt Hansen says seems to be a lot of hand wringing over recruiting on social media. That was from a while ago in the show. I assume that has a lot to do with Dylan Raiola, but I can tell you this: I have tried to do my best in the last week to stay off social media as much just because I'm getting buried by regular work. And uh, it's, you get into, so even before the show, I went out and I thought, today I went out on Twitter, and then you get sucked into black holes. That's what Twitter does to you.
Yep.
Suddenly you care. Suddenly you care what Elon Musk says, and then you're sucked into this thing. You know what other thing sucked me into something today, Todd?
Leeches.
I don't even know if I should go here, but I'm too tired to not go here. It was a tweet I sent to my children, and it was a tweet by an artificial intelligence guy who said that he recommended that people start regularly recording your parents, elders, and loved ones with enough transcript data, new voice synthesis, and video models. There is a 100% chance that they will live with you after leaving their physical body. This should even be possible by the end of the year. I texted that to my family, my children. My daughter responded, ruined my day. Thanks, because the idea that I would still be around after I've passed on, I think that's terrifying. I think that would be terrifying to anybody. That means I would still be here like it. I would still be there to nag them during holiday dinners. Nobody wants that, for God's sakes. But that's the kind of black hole is that social media can stick you into. Fred Sacco comes back with, our former head coach got sucked into a lot of black holes. Apparently he did. It's probably too much time on social media. That's what that guy was doing. What else we got going on out there? I have a question. We're doing pretty decent with the number of people on the chat. I just lost what I was going to say. Okay, my plan, we have a long off season ahead of us, and every Monday night, if we have to come up with subjects, they're going to be about artificial intelligence and about the fact
we're not talking about that. No.
That Oliver Wilde once said that there are no good or evil people, only tedious or interesting. And I don't think anybody wants us going down those roads. So what my plan is to find other people to interview and bring on the program, hopefully from other schools. So, for example, we would find some Gopher guys and have them come in and talk about their Minnesota Gopher offseason and what they think they're. Chris Crawford says, you guys have a plan. I am constructing a plan as we go. And I'm asking what you guys think of it. If you guys have any ideas about other teams that you would like to see us talk to about what their team is about. I mean, we could have a guy from Minnesota. We could pull in a guy from Colorado, pull in guys from Wisconsin. I would love to talk to Wisconsin to see what they think of Luke Fickell so far. The other teams that we're going to play. I would like to talk. You know what? I would like to talk to a Florida State and Clemson guys to see what they think about being in the ACC and how angry they are that the Big Ten is making tons of money but never winning championships.
There you go. You know who I'd really like to talk to?
Who would you like to talk to, Todd?
I'd like to talk with Angel Reese. I want to ask her what she really thinks about Caitlin Clark. And, see if we could get her to be honest. And I don't think there's any question she'd be honest. It's just how forthcoming she might be.
Dion Pryor says, anyone but Iowa pig farmers. I have to tell you guys this. Since we joined the Big Ten, okay, when coordination was around 2006, we started 2006, and every Black Friday game, we would do, every week we try to, on coordination, we do some Q&As with the other team and ask them questions. We did that. We have almost, I think, never done that with Iowa, and it isn't because there's been a short week. It's because there's tension between us, I think. That's what the reason is. I will say no more than that. But, I mean, if I was going to talk to somebody from Iowa, it would be Keith Duncan. And just say, what'd you think about, shoving that stuff in our face? And
I think that would be cool. We should try to get Keith Duncan on here. That would be fun. Hey, full disclosure, Dion, I married an Iowa pig farmer. My wife did grow up on an Iowa pig farm.
We'll just pause for a moment. There's that pregnant pause.
Just let everybody kind of absorb that,
Matt Hansen says you should interview Bo Pelini. That would be no. I don't mean to be rude to Bo Pelini, but I just don't have that much interest in talking to Bo. Living in Omaha, David Matney, it says, do you think you could pull in some former players? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what we could be thinking about. Hey, now the emojis are showing up properly. What the hell is that about? I don't get it. This technology stuff is confusing. Okay, you know what? Here is something I was going to save. I wrote down, but we have 15 minutes left, and we might do this again next week. But living in David, Omaha, the speech patterns are getting screwy because I'm tired. Living in Omaha, David Matney says, what are your key performance indicators that will we see in the spring game that show we are headed in the right direction? Well, come on, Todd. The first one's easy. Easy. We play tackle football. We play tackle football. We play tackle football.
Well, yeah.
We actual tackle people. That would be one sign we're heading in the right direction. It's your turn.
I don't have any. See, this is where I come across, being an asshole. I don't think you can take anything worth a damn from a spring game. That's why I think.
Todd, part of what we do is speculation, and the other part is bullshit. And we take the speculation, right? It's over here, and you take the bullshit and you put them together and you make cake.
Well, I understand. So I guess I'm looking at German chocolate. If we have German chocolate come from the spring game, then I would say, yeah, that's a pretty good performance indicator.
So
I don't know. If Jeff Sims, seems to be able to have a command of what limited offense they show, does that mean that we're going to be successful in the fall? If the offensive line, does a decent job of, keeping the quarterback upright, because they're not going to hit him in the spring game. And, I just.
Well, you have 6 quarterbacks, 6 scholarship quarterbacks. You can do hitting in the spring game, unless it's Casey Thompson. Or I think Richard Torres had still recovering from an injury. Fred Sacco comes up with something. Todd, for God's sake, put this. Do you have a little whiteboard next to your desk where you sit and do these?
John, right now I'm really distracted because I got this goddamn Restream thing sitting in the front of my... sitting right in front of me. I only see half of you. I see half of me. I can't read all of Fred's questions. And I got this stupid ass, hi there, how can we help? And I can't get rid of the damn thing.
There should be a little arrow down. You clicked on the chat thing. You clicked on the, need.
Go.
Yeah, see that? You can push the arrow down and it will minimize the little chat. You don't need to do a tech support session in the middle of our show. Okay, Fred Sacco says physicality and the O-line can diagnose and or pick up a blitz or switch. Those are very good things that you'd like to see in the spring game. Yep. I don't know if they'll actually blitz or switch, but you know what? If they did, good. It would be fun.
I'd like to see quarterbacks that, throw the ball, are able to throw the ball, with accuracy and a little bit of zip on it. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see running backs that can break through a tackle, because they are going to, according to what we're hearing, they are going to play big boy tackle football. I want to see running backs break tackles.
Billy Tuesday comes in with, I like Todd. Isn't that sweet, Todd?
Yeah.
You really can't tell a lot in a spring game. That was the rest of Billy Tuesday's comment.
I've never met Billy Tuesday. I've met Billy Sunday. Billy Sunday was a famous preacher out of Sioux City, an evangelist, traveled in a school bus. Billy Sunday. Yep.
Let's see. Vince Watson comes back and says, if the O-line does a good job, the D is in trouble.
Well, the D's got to do some rebuilding anyway.
Yeah, they do. I was supposed to put out a defensive overview today, and I completely forgot about it. Wait a minute, we're going the wrong way. Joel Tilson says no more flag football. I will every year. I write an article on coordination, and I do a poll, and I'll ask the poll. And the question is, what do you think? And this is for you guys in the chat too. What do you think the crowd will cheer the loudest for at the spring game? And we'll probably bring this up again next week. What do you think the crowd will cheer the loudest for?
What do I think the crowd's going to cheer?
People in the chat can answer that too. You know what? You remember what the crowd cheered the loudest for last year?
Oh, and when they started tackling in the second half.
No.
What? I don't.
It was a punt that went 40 yards.
Oh, that's right. A punt that just rocketed. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Everything else, we were all like, "Oh my God, what's going on? Why are they doing this to us?" But what do you think they're this year? What would you think that everybody will cheer the loudest for?
If we have an offensive lineman pull and knock a guy on his ass.
But that is, I need to write that down.
See, I'm giving it some thought, John.
Good job.
I'm no longer frustrated by that damn little bubble thing popping up. Now I'm back into it. Yes, power option football. No, we're not going to see that. But if we could see a guard come around and just blast someone, that would be good. That would be good.
Dean Pryor says if Dylan Raiola secretly shows up and commits on the 50, that would be. But let's see. Somebody has the right answer here. Let's see. Loudest cheer for the fullback trap. That would Fred Sacco. That would be a good one.
Yeah.
But the honest to God truth is, and I'm going to have to rule this out when I do my poll on coordination, but this is the right answer, Todd.
Well, that is the right answer. The crowd will cheer very loudly for him.
Vince Watson says Frank. And the honest to God truth is, I think that will be the loudest cheering. I'm going to have to disqualify that when I do my poll because that one's obvious.
Well, the fan base needs a cleansing. It needs to cleanse itself. And
they do.
And having Frank be there will give everyone an opportunity to do that.
Linda Wilkins says, if John and Todd are introduced. I love you, Linda. Thank you very much. And then led away in handcuffs. That's what they're like, God, what the hell? Ralph Davis comes back with people not to interview: Brett Bielema, Melvin Gordon.
You know, if you could ask Brett Bielema one question, John, what would you ask him?
Oh my God. I'd ask him, I'd probably honestly, if it was a serious question and I had a serious interview, I'd say, what was the point at which you decided, what is the actual thing, the thing that broke your back and made you leave Wisconsin? Because I think we all, there were a lot of things about Wisconsin didn't want to pony up for assistants. Wisconsin did this, Wisconsin did that. But something occurred where Bert said, the hell with this, I'm out of here. And, Wisconsin has done decently since him, but have they really done as well without him?
No. I know what I'd ask Melvin Gordon.
MK says the comment section would be on fire if you interviewed Bielema. It would be. That would be true. You would ask.
I would ask Melvin Gordon if he felt sorry for Nebraska after torching us for all of those yards and still having He ran for miles against us that night, and he still had enough energy to do snow angels in the third quarter.
And he still had another quarter he could have put up, and then some guy breaks his record like 2 weeks later. I am gonna say normally every year, I think that when we go into the spring game, everybody is concerned most about quarterbacks, and I think that is that the case this year? Because I think we have a known quantity in Casey Thompson, but I think people want to, I think people want to see Jeff Sims in a Nebraska uniform and just see how he looks. It's that eye test thing.
Yeah, I think there's curiosity about that. I don't know that it's as, as an intense interest as it has been in other years. I'll tell you what I'm looking for. I am really anxious to see. One, I want to see Thomas Fedoni out on the field actually doing something. And, besides whipping a towel around trying to get the crowd fired up. So I want to see him out on the field, and I want to see, what kind of a player he is. But I am really, really curious about what we're going to see with the offensive line in terms of, the physicality. And I think maybe Fred said that earlier, the physicality of the offensive line. Are we going to see a difference with those guys?
Fred Sacco comes in and says they need to let Frank take a fullback trap 60 yards and then burn a Petey Pinata in effigy. I want you to think about this. It was like 10 years ago. It was 10 years ago when the Hoffman kid, Jack Hoffman made his run and became famous in the spring game. Wouldn't it be special to have Frank Solich do the same thing?
No.
Just give him the ball, let him run up the middle as a fullback. And then, nobody tackles him and we're all in shock. And then he pulls his helmet off and it's Frank Solich. Come on.
That's kind of like the Masked Singer.
Yeah. I'm going with this one. We need to write this down. This is this will be one of those things I put on Twitter and everybody will go, geez, what the hell is wrong with this person? Okay. We're at 57 and a half minutes.
Hey, I emailed you a picture that I think you need to put up as a graphic.
Okay.
And, the whole thing, and I think I said this last week, that I've been to one spring game in my life, and that was last year. It is, if you can get to Lincoln and if you can get out there and watch the spring game, I think it's a lot of fun. I had as much fun people watching as I did anything else, where, you get generations of families there, with the little kids that you're not going to spend $100 on a ticket for a regular game. And all those families are there enjoying, that Nebraska experience. So right there, we're talking recruiting. This one has the potential of having a great deal of success at the University of Nebraska. Would probably roughly be in the class of 2040, I would think, maybe. What's 18 years from now, John?
What do you want from me?
2041. And, this one has all sorts of potential. I truly believe that this will be the first 3-sport female athlete at Nebraska to letter in all 3 sports. And just keep an eye on her. In fact, she is so impressive. I have a belief that Neil Diamond's going to write a song about her, and call it Sweet Caroline, perhaps. Anyway,
that's a disgustingly cute kid.
She is disgustingly cute, isn't it? And the fact
I would assume
a fraction of my DNA.
I was going to say that part of the DNA came from somebody else's side of the family. Wow, really? Is that is a grossly? I know I'm not a baby guy, and that is a really nice looking baby.
Yeah, she's kind of cute.
Linda Wilkins says, Todd, she has your legs, and for people listening on the podcast and don't get this visually, she had nice chubby baby legs.
Chubby baby legs. She
Chubby
looks like a
baby
miniature
legs.
Michelin guy.
Uh, okay, a couple more comments, and then we're in an hour. But let's see. Come on, where am I at here? Joel Tilson says spring game sold out? Question mark. I don't know if it's sold out yet.
No, it's not sold out yet. They they'll probably have an update this week on tickets sold, but
I'm
it's
sure
not
that
sold
people
out.
are waiting for that weather window.
Probably will have a lot to do with it.
Mike Schuster comes in and says, hello, Todd and John. Hope all is well. Go Big Red. Mike, you're supposed to be here earlier. We're almost done now. Okay. Anything else?
No, I hope something happens this week that we can talk about next week.
It'll probably involve artificial intelligence. Okay, then. Good night, Todd.